Well, something that does come up with some frequency is a conflict that is sometimes created by not the reporter but by the involvement of management at a news organization. People who are general managers at TV stations or publishers at newspapers, they're quite often involved in various boards and organizations and things like that that make news. And so you quite often find a situation where the reporter is covering an activity that his or her general manager or publisher is involved in, and so there's potential for conflict of interest. And I think you need to know what the publisher or general manager wants you to do, because if you don't, you can get fired. I saw that happen in one instance where a radio reporter was fired because he didn't cover something the way his general manager wanted it covered, and so that's kind of a problem because ordinarily you tend to make those judgments on the basis of the news value, and here you're suddenly being forced to make the judgment based on something else, on the desires of your supervisor.
It comes back to the reporter's sense of personal integrity. I mean, I can't think of it. Well, I suppose at one level. I mean, I spent most of my working career, as you know, in Washington, and I don't know that it necessarily would be considered a conflict of interest to say that I had political views that might not necessarily have been the same as those of the members of Congress I was covering, for example. But I don't really think the members of Congress I covered ever had any idea what my political affiliations were, because if you're a professional, you don't let people know. I mean, that's kind of the bottom line. And just as you separate those kinds of personal views from your work, I think you just have to work at also separating your other human connections, I guess, from the opinions on the issues that you cover.
It can happen as well if, say, a spouse or other relative of a reporter is involved in something. You need to work those things out with your supervisor and tell the supervisor, look, I've got a conflict here, I've got a spouse who's involved in this, and I really shouldn't be covering that, or something of that nature.